All right, there's a couple situations that we got to talk about, Tyler. Obviously, fantasy is a landmine right now, man. You go anywhere, you might get injured yourself with your fantasy team, and I'm sure everybody has some question marks, questionable decisions that they have. But we saw one of the Week 3 teams already play. That's the New York Jets, Tyler. And obviously, like we saw the Jets turn on the Jets, demolish the Patriots. But it was curious to see because you and I have talked, right? Like I know you were a big big Brees Hall guy. I was kind of like, Braelon Allen I think he's him and will have opportunity. But it was cool to see it for me. At least I like seeing Braelon Allen. I like seeing them both succeed right now. And it feels like they both are. How are you feeling about Brees Hall, like as the RB1? I know Christian McCaffrey's out. Are you feeling, if you have Brees Hall right now, are you still treating him as like, yeah, I feel good about him being the RB1? Or do you have a little bit more question marks seeing as like, Braelon Allen's a guy they have to get involved. Like they have to get him involved in some form or fashion because he's a dominant force when he's in there. And talk to me, man. How you feeling about Brees right now?
No, I still think he's RB1. And the reason why, like, sure, the emergence of Braelon Allen is something, but it's still like it's a 70-30 split, like in terms of snap share. Brees Hall is dominating the routes ran. He's getting the targets. I want to say he might even be, I'm going to look this up while I keep talking, but may even lead all running backs in terms of targets. Like the dude has just been, he's been so good this season. And like last night, sure, the numbers weren't, I wouldn't even say they're great in terms of like efficiency. But I also think that this offense just benefits with both these guys. It takes a little bit of the load off of Brees Hall. That way he doesn't need to be touching the ball 20 plus times a game, even though he was probably close last night. But still, like it just takes a little bit of load off and allows him to be, we see it all the time. These guys, when the touches go up, the efficiency drops a little bit. So it's able to keep him kind of in a sweet spot where he's still able to be super efficient. So for me, I mean, I think that the emergence of Braelon Allen is good for this team and honestly can be good for Brees Hall. I still think like Brees is getting all the money touches that you want to see. So I still feel good that he's RB1. And this offense still, I don't even think has reached its potential. You saw it last night. Yep. Aaron Rodgers looked good, like running out of the pocket, was able to move around. So I think that there's still another level that this offense can reach.
Yeah, Brees Hall is tied. He was tied heading in after week 2, tied for the league in targets among running backs. So I think he leads the league comfortably now after the week. But I like Brees Hall, and I think the only thing I was concerned about was like his ceiling being capped. I thought Braelon Allen would play a role just because of the type of runner that he was. And he's looked the part, but the good thing for Brees Hall is that he's still been able to be successful on the field, which is exactly what you want to see out of a guy who, he scored a touchdown every single week. They're getting him involved. He's involved in the passing game. So the floor is there. It's not like you have to be worried about the floor. Now, I think Braelon Allen is one of those pieces, though, Tyler, that could be on our rosters as like a flex option, at least here coming up very soon, especially during bye weeks. His involvement to me, I know he's not playing as many snaps. He's only playing 30% of the snaps right now. But I can see that number, especially as Brees Hall gets dinged up a little bit. Braelon Allen potentially has earned more in the receiving game or along the goal line. The Jets keep, they had a comfortable lead against the New England. I'm sure that there's going to be other games where they blow out teams. Like Braelon Allen, we have not seen the end of him, and he's a player that I would be holding on to very carefully on my bench. I'm sure there might be a week or two where you're like, do I need to keep him? Is it time to drop him? There's going to be a time and place for Braelon Allen. I'm not sure how many weeks or when, but there will be a time we're talking about Braelon Allen that's potentially like a high-end RB2, back-end RB1 if something were to happen to Brees, or a consistent flex if nothing does happen to Brees.
No, I agree. I think that he should be on all 12-team rosters just because he may not be startable right now, like week to week, but like you said, maybe during the bye weeks, because when he is only playing 30% of the snaps, but like when he's playing those snaps, they're getting him the ball. They like to give him, rushing attempts and that kind of stuff. So, and then also the other appeal is like, we're still holding on a guy like Blake Corum in case something happens to Kyron, but like you could say the same thing with Brees. I mean, I would assume that it's definitely going to be Braelon Allen if something were to happen to Brees, and you're talking about a guy that could legit be a back-end RB1 in fantasy football. So absolutely, I think he deserves to be on rosters and basically all 12-team leagues. I would say he needs to be in a roster. And I don't know how deep the rosters are in 10, but he's just in like a stash is essentially what he is with high ceiling, if anything, if Brees were to go down.
He's a hard player. It's a hard player to keep because, like last week we saw him against the Titans. He had 2 touchdowns. That's not going to happen most weeks. Most weeks he's going to be a 10-touch guy, and we're talking about 50-yard upside most weeks, like without the touchdown. So it's a tough player to keep, but they use him in the passing game, which is nice to see. He'll get 2-3 catches a week. It's a tough player to gauge because the potential is there. He's too tough to drop, but he's not there yet when it comes to startability. So
no. But those are the kind of guys you just hold on to. Like, I understand that you can't start him, but like the upside is just so massive. If Brees were to go down, that like I'd much rather have that guy on my bench, and even if I have to keep him the whole season long, just eat that roster spot if Brees doesn't go down. Because if Brees were to go down, I wouldn't want to miss out on the opportunity to not have him. So I know that like during bye weeks, it can get really tough though, because you can have guys on bye, guys that are hurt. Even if you have a guy in your IR spot, there's other injuries that kind of pile up. A guy missed a week here or there. So it can get tough during the bye. And I understand that sometimes people unfortunately got to drop them. But I would just hold on to him as long as I possibly can.
And we learned a little bit about these receivers too, Tyler. Like Garrett Wilson obviously got the touchdown finally. They're doing a lot to try to take him away. And Aaron Rodgers is kind of spread this thing out. The first week we saw Allen Lazard go. The next week we saw Braelon Allen get involved in the receiving game a little bit more. We saw him take shots with Mike Williams yesterday in the night game. We see Allen Lazard get into the end zone again. Like these receivers it's kind of being spread out. I think Aaron Rodgers right now, obviously he's targeting Garrett Wilson. That's his guy, but he is kind of just taking this thing as the defense gives him, In back-to-back wins now, we've seen Garrett Wilson under 70 yards receiving in every game of the season so far. Are you concerned about him? Because I'm to the point where I think I kind of already put him in this mid-tier to back-end wide receiver 1 range. Hasn't really shocked me to see this, and I think better days are ahead. It's just it might catch some people off guard, especially if you had high hopes and aspirations for Garrett Wilson with him sitting at the wide receiver 13 overall right now, and that's after playing.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. And the reason why I'm not concerned, I still think he has massive upside. I think that he can be a top 5 guy. And you saw it last night, there was I want to say there was definitely one back shoulder throw that they just weren't on the same page. And I don't think that they're on the same page yet. But still he's seeing a 27% target share, and that's after this game. So a massive target share still for this team. And like I said earlier, Aaron Rodgers, first game, I don't think he looked very good the first game. I didn't watch the second game for them, but last night with it being, nationally televised, he looked good. And I do believe that this offense still has another gear. Aaron Rodgers still can play better. Garrett Wilson and him will get on the same page. That I feel pretty confident. If anybody's worried about Garrett Wilson, I would definitely be trying to buy low. I still believe that he can be a top 5 wide receiver. And remember, it's only week 3.
You think top 5? I don't see a top 5 upside ceiling for him. Easy. I don't see it yardage.
I think that's also because once again, the first week they played San Francisco, very good defense. Yep. Next week, Tennessee, a very good defense. Even New England, I know they got kind of eaten up last week, but they're still pretty good. And this is a divisional game. These games are always a little bit closer than what they should. That game wasn't close last night at all,
right?
But it's still a tough divisional game. I firmly believe that. Yeah, I think that he can be it. With the targets, the target share is massive still, and I think that there's still a whole nother gear that these two can reach. So I would be buying in on him if I could trade Justin Jefferson for Garrett Wilson plus. I would do that.
It depends on what the plus is, right? It would need to be a strong plus for me. You talk about Garrett Wilson, though. The only thing I see with him, and just looking at their schedule, the Jets' schedule coming up, they've already played the Niners, they played Tennessee, and they played the Patriots. They got Denver next week. They have Minnesota after that, who's been playing really well. Stephon Gilmore, Brian Flores, that combination has been really good so far. Buffalo, they got Pittsburgh, New England again, and Houston again. That's their first 9 games. That's a tough slate when it comes to those expectations. So I get it. The talent is there. I don't think there's no question mark about the talent. The chemistry needs to be there, and then we need to see the results. We haven't seen it yet with Garrett Wilson. I just think by the time we get to the second half, it might be late to call him a top 5 upside now for the fantasy playoff schedule. Now we're talking about top 5 upside, and I'm with you there. I think it's tough to get there for me, top 5 on the year with some of the other receivers that are out there, but who knows with the way that these injuries been mounting up.
Well, and just the offenses. The offenses haven't been overly impressive this year either. It's been
like no points this year, Brad. Like none.
Like even the wide receivers just haven't been that good in general either. Like it has not been very good.
Question: who do you think out of these Jets receivers, who do you think is better, Lazard or Mike Williams? Who's the receiver to have?
I think if Mike Williams can kind of get back, and there was a little moment last night where he had that jump ball in the back of the end zone. I would lean Mike Williams just because I think he's a better real life wide receiver. And I think, as the season progresses, that need gets better for him as well. So I would prefer Mike Williams if I had to pick one, but Allen Lazard, Aaron Rodgers, they got that chemistry too. Like they've played with each other for a while. So I understand if people want to lean that way. I think it's a toss up though.
A rare time. I agree with you. I think Mike Williams, especially when it comes to like red zone opportunities later in the year, once he's fully healthy, is going to get a lot from A-Rod. They have to. And I don't think Allen Lazard commands enough respect defensively for them to like force feed him. I think Mike Williams is going to have a hell of a second half. I don't want to overstate that.
Yeah,
but a good second half for him. And I think
especially for real life football. Like even if it doesn't translate to fantasy, I think that for like real life football, he'll be really solid. And another guy that I want to mention real quick is also Tyler Conklin had a good game last night, and I really do think that Tyler Conklin can be, just because the tight end position is so dreadful. Like I know there was a lot of people that ran out and picked up Hunter Henry and definitely played him last night. And they're sitting there with I think he had 3 yards or something.
He does the same shit every year. Hunter Henry does the same thing every single
The problem is just that offense is so bad. That offense is not good. So, but I really do think that Tyler Conklin can be, and this isn't saying that much because I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of points, can be a back end tight end 1 this season, because honestly, it's probably going to be 160 points this year. It's not going to be a whole lot. So he's somebody that I do think this offense will be better, will continue to get better and better. That I'd rather have him than Hunter Henry or Isaiah Likely. I'd rather have a Tyler Conklin than those kind of guys.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I can't say I don't agree with it, because tight end outside of the top 4 guys right now is
bad.
It's bad. There's nobody